Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this video. It's O'Riordan here from Main Event Mic'd. I am here to give my preview slash predictions ahead of AEW Dynasty, which will be taking place this Sunday in good old Canada. We just had the go home show to AEW Dynasty this past literally yesterday or Wednesday. Good show, a good way to kind of start things up and kind of build towards the final show. A really chaotic match between the Death Riders and as well as Will Ospreay, bringing in the United Empire as well as the brand new IWGP Heavyweight Champion in Callum Newman onto the scene to have a completely balls of the wall chaotic what was it called, Chaos in Canada match, which I thought was a very, very fun match. But this here is to really discuss all the matches that have been placed on AEW Dynasty so far, give my predictions for them as well. On the scale of excitement, I am looking forward to the show. I think this is looking like a really good show and a really good card. I'm really looking forward to the main event because I do think that the main event of this card, which is MJF versus Kenny Omega, has the potential to be a match of the year contender. They had one. Literally, they had one back in 2023 on an episode of Collision, back when MJF was in his first title reign, and now we're here once again. This time in 2026. But just get straight into it. We have a pre-show match so far that has just been confirmed, and knowing Tony Khan is probably going to add more pre-show matches just out of nowhere. Hopefully not. Alex Windsor will be facing Marina Shafir in a singles match. This is kind of coming intertwined between the rivalry between Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley. With Alex Windsor, she's currently in a tag team with Jamie Hayter, but Jamie Hayter will be challenging for the AEW World Women's Championship, which we'll be getting on to later. And Marina Shafir is currently in a position where she was coming off a feud with Toni Storm. They did the whole angle with Ronda Rousey back at Revolution, but it seems like that's going to go nowhere, especially with Toni Storm's injury. She lost to Toni. She lost to Mina Shirakawa. Do they want Alex Windsor to take another loss, even though they're trying to kind of build that team with Jamie Hayter? But it's interesting, but I kind of feel like I'm pulling for Alex Windsor to win. I think that's kind of where I'm looking at so far. So I'm going to pick that for how it looks like. These two were also fighting with each other during that whole brawl at the beginning of Dynamite when Will Ospreay went after Jon Moxley. And then the whole United Empire slash the Death Riders came up to have that big brawl all the way into the arena. And speaking of that, Jon Moxley versus Will Ospreay in a singles match for the AEW Continental Championship. This match, ever since Will Ospreay made his return at AEW Revolution, has been going straight for Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley is the man responsible for putting, well, in kayfabe, putting Will Ospreay on the shelf after he was the one that attacked him. And what has been very odd and interesting about this feud is that before Will Ospreay's return, they've been kind of playing a story of a redemption for Jon Moxley, especially in the Continental Classic, where Jon Moxley kind of went on a redemption slash babyface arc, winning the Continental Classic, winning it, as he's saying, for the fans. But it's almost become a thing where he has kind of played the babyface slash tweener. The Death Riders still are heels, like Marina Shafir going after Toni Storm, Daniel Garcia going after people, and all these other things. But now with this feud with Will Ospreay, he's kind of gone back to the heel route or the heel phase of his character slash tweener, and I think the feud's been good. They've shown the hatred towards I think especially Will Ospreay. What was interesting is that for anyone who saw the New Japan Sakura Genesis show and you saw the Callum Newman versus Yota Tsuji match, how Will Ospreay was telling Callum Newman, win it the honorable way, win it in a way where you're not utilizing to cheat or trying to destroy or whatnot. But you could see that here with Will Ospreay, his motivated is just to beat or destroy Jon Moxley any means necessary, an eye for an eye, especially what Jon Moxley did to Will Ospreay back at Forbidden Door. Now, with the Continental Championship on the line, I just don't see this being the destination for Will Ospreay. I don't see Will Ospreay with the Continental belt. For a minute, I was thinking potentially this could be a time limit draw, but I have a feeling I could be wrong. That the Continental Championship rules are 60 minutes on pay-per-view, which I don't want that. If it's 20, then fine. But after seeing this week's episode of Will Ospreay actually pinning Jon Moxley, I think I'm leaning towards Jon Moxley beating Will Ospreay and retaining his championship. I don't think it looks great for Will Ospreay to lose on pay-per-view, his very first pay-per-view match, but they've kept Will Ospreay on TV. He's been wrestling regular, getting some wins, and I think the story potentially is Will Ospreay to win the Owen Hart and challenge for the AEW World title at All in London in Wembley. I think that's his destination. What will be interesting, of course, is that the Death Riders will not be involved because this is under Continental rules. There is no interference that should be allowed. But I think Moxley will find a way to retain the championship, and I think after today's episode of Dynamite has kind of convinced me that that is going to be the route of where we're going to go. We have Andrade versus Darby Allin in a singles match. Now, if Darby Allin wins, he will receive a future AEW World Championship match in the foreseeable future, potentially at Double or Nothing. Darby Allin, unfortunately, just doesn't... I think he's a fun wrestler, but World Championship material in 2026 for me, it doesn't really do it for me. I think there was a chance where they could have potentially pushed Darby to go there. It was last year, actually. Darby Allin was the first front runner to be the person to take the belt of Jon Moxley, who was keeping that belt in a briefcase. But Darby Allin chose Mount Everest and to do crazy things in Mount Everest and climb there. And they went with Hangman Adam Page. And even though they've been trying to tell this story of Darby Allin wanting to chase the championship, he came off a feud with the Gate Kid and the War Dogs, and now he's facing Andrade, who I have been liking the presentation of Andrade with the Don Callis family. He's been great in ring. The small wrinkle of him kind of interacting with the women in the crowd and taking pictures and those type of things. Those are the small things that they're doing to kind of make Andrade intriguing as a character. But in ring, we know how great Andrade is. I think Darby wins this. I could definitely see Darby getting a future title shot, potentially at Double or Nothing, which will be the next pay-per-view. But I'm just not super convinced. I feel like if MJF beats Kenny, I think Darby would be one of the opponents I look at to potentially be one of the guys that this is a clear defense for MJF. With Kenny, there's a 50-50 because going without spoiling who I think just immediately, it's 50-50. MJF could win, and then we could see Will Ospreay MJF, or Kenny could win, and we can go Kenny, Will Ospreay. Darby, I just don't think anyone is believing Darby Allin to win the championship in 2026, and it's just right now for me, I don't really see that right now for Darby Allin. I think he's definitely someone who takes inspiration from, like, let's say, the Jeff Hardys, especially with how he moves in the ring. He's a wrestler who takes 95% of the punishment, takes crazy bumps, and what is actually kind of an interesting thing is that he barely has a lot of injuries. I think the one injury he had is when he took a dive, and I think he hit the I think it was like the front of the apron or something, or the barricades, and that's his only injury. Out of all of the crazy spots he has taken in his career, that's what's caused him an injury. But I'm gonna go Darby Allin because I think they want to push towards a Darby Allin MJF match. There's story there. I mean, I remember the match that MJF had. I think this was either 2 years ago, where he pinned him with a sort of pin. Like, he even said, "I'm gonna pin you this way." Pause. I'm gonna in this type of way. So they can build to that. I think they've had matches before in the past, so that's another opponent that MJF could face. But going with Darby Allin for this. There is a Casino Gauntlet match for the AEW TNT Championship. Unfortunately, Cal Fletcher had to vacate his championship due to injury. He has a meniscus injury, which has forced him to vacate the belt, and he'll be out for a few months, which is definitely a shame because I think Cal Fletcher has definitely been one of the top wrestlers in AEW, especially last year. Had some incredible matches. If it was the match with Will Ospreay in a steel cage, even the match with Hangman Adam Page at All Out was fantastic, and I think he's been an exceptional wrestler for AEW, so it will be a shame to see him be out for a while. In his place, there will be a Casino Gauntlet match. Tommaso Ciampa is in it. I think Roosh is in it. It's really a toss-up to who wins this. I'm probably leaning towards Tommaso Ciampa. I think it makes sense. I have been liking the heel turn of Ciampa, and I could see a run where he has the belt even more, and maybe you could do a story where Mark Briscoe chases Tommaso Ciampa for the TNT Championship. They had a really good match. a few months back at Collision, so I think that could potentially happen. We have the Young Bucks versus the Don Callis family of Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita. It seems like we're starting to pick back the Okada Takeshita feud. I was a bit down that we kind of stopped the momentum of the World's End and kind of focus on different things. But it seems like the friction is still there, especially after yesterday's episode of Dynamite, where Okada and Takeshita, there was this funny line where I think Don Callis was kind of comparing, saying that we could be like Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, and Okada responded back with a funny line as well. But yeah, I think this could be a really fantastic tag match between all four people in this match, in my opinion. With who wins, I could see the Bucks winning, but it's like, is Okada taking a pinfall or Takeshi's taking a pinfall? That's what I'm looking at. And of course, if when this is done, there will be potentially Okada Takeshita at Double or Nothing. So for now, I'm kind of leaning towards the Bucks winning for now. So that's what I'm going to go with. Chris Jericho versus Ricochet. Chris Jericho made his return last week on an episode of AEW Dynamite to confirm that he has chosen to stay in AEW after multiple speculations that he was supposed to come back to WWE. I thought the segment with Ricochet was fine. With Jericho being back in AEW, I'm fine with it. Hopefully this could be a gimmick, and he's gone back to the whole "you just made the list" gimmick, which was a fun gimmick. It seems like they're going with a babyface Chris Jericho for the time being. Putting him with Ricochet kind of makes sense because people hate Ricochet in the ring, but also with the stuff he did prior with the whole thing that we'll not get into. This is a Chris Jericho win on pay-per-view. I just think Ricochet's not winning this match easily. And Jericho Ricochet is a match that I've never seen before. But it should be interesting to see how things go overall with this run that Jericho's going to go with. I do feel that this could end up becoming dry after a few weeks or a month. But who knows? We'll see what they'll do with Jericho. But I'm going with Jericho to win this. Just to pick out the rest of on this card, we have Thekla versus Jamie Hayter for the AEW Women's World Championship. I really like Thekla. I really like the expression, the way she speaks, how she is in the ring. It does remind me of Asuka, how expressive she can be in the ring. Jamie Hayter is always a great hand and a great wrestler in her own right. It's a shame that she isn't going to win. I think Tekla's going to defend the belt here. It's just going to be another defense for Thekla right here. But it should be a really good women's match. Hopefully where they put on the card gives them the time and the space for the crowd to be invested. Because these are two women I really enjoy in the ring. I think they could give a really good to great match. But I'm going with Thekla to retain her championship. The next match is one of the, I'll say, the high-key matches of the show, which is FTR defending their AEW Tag Team Championships against Copeland Christian. This has been a rivalry for a very, very long time. And I do like the dynamic of Edge and Christian, but more to do with Christian. I'm glad that he's kept this. He's technically the same character as he was, but just in a babyface role. Edge is fine. He doesn't really do anything crazy, and I think because Edge is popular, he comes out, gets ginormous reactions. Doesn't really need to do too much, but I think Christian's dynamic is what kind of makes the team work. And FTR, they're a great team, and I think Stokely Hathaway's been a great addition to them as well. I do think this is going to be new tag team champions. We're in Canada. It makes sense for them to win it here. I'm going with Copeland Christian to become the new AEW Tag Team Champions. And I think as we continue on the road to All In, I see Copeland Christian, FTR, and the Young Bucks in a triple threat. Tables, ladders, and chairs. Could be at Wembley. And that would be phenomenal. And I think I have to give AEW a bit of credit for kind of making the tag division feel more relevant in their promotion. Sure, it's with the same teams. I think FTR has definitely been around the belts, same as the Young Bucks, but I think there has been some movement there, so I have to give them credit for that. So just want to be sure that I've gone through everything. And yeah, let's go to the main event. MJF will be defending his AEW World Championship against Kenny, my God, Omega. They've portrayed this as the devil versus the god of professional wrestling. Yeah, and I would say the build for this has been good. I think MJF has done a good job on the mic. Kenny, I think, has done a good job on the mic as well. With Kenny Omega, he's an exceptional wrestler. I think he's arguably one of the best wrestlers of his generation. I think he can, on the mic, he can be very 50-50. There can be times where he can give some really good promos, and there's some times when he can give some, what are you talking about? I remember last year when he was, I think it was Speedball and Ricochet, no, it was Young Bucks, and he was comparing them to like when their cats take a poo in the, yeah, that was said. And but here I think they've done a really good job with the build between both of them. This has all the calibers and all the accolades to be a match of the year contender. MJF is a phenomenal wrestler who can wrestle with the best of everyone and is phenomenal on the mic. Probably one of AEW's best characters currently right now. And Kenny Omega, hopefully at the position that he is right now, to be 100% in the ring, can showcase why he is still one of the best wrestlers in the world. And I think that is kind of the storyplex of this feud, as well as, of course, them talking about the diverticulitis, which Kenny Omega has suffered with, which MJF has kind of teased about, even though I do think the prospect of Kenny Omega's intestines exploding if he wrestles is kind of ridiculous. I think the match itself sells itself. If you have seen the match that they had back in 2023, you know that we're going to get something similar to that route as well. The question is, will there be involvement? Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland are both 1-1 in their matches, with Swerve winning the first one, Kenny winning this one, and I do see Swerve and Kenny running up potentially a third time, maybe on a pay-per-view or anywhere. And so there could be the potential of an involvement involving the likes of a Swerve Strickland or whoever gets involved in the, let's say, Darby Allin or Andrade match, maybe. I think more likely with Swerve, because we haven't seen Swerve anywhere for a while, and I feel like they are going to want to continue that. For that, I do think MJF is going to retain the championship. I think they're going to keep the belt on him. And I think he's done a really good job with this title reign. It's been a good reign so far. It's been a good title reign. He's wrestled with the likes of a Bandito, Brody King, defended it. Trying to remember the people who's defended it. Wow. Defended against Hangman, especially in that match as well. Here against Kenny, and I think he's just going to hold that belt all the way to Wembley. And it kind of makes sense. Like I said, it's good to kind of see him with the championship. It's good to see him back in this main event scene as well. And the promos that both of them have kind of cut with each other has brought even some of the best of Kenny on the mic as well. And MJF kind of counteracting as well. But I'm pulling with MJF to retain the championship here. So those are my predictions. Those are my thoughts on AEW Dynasty. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to this show. I think this will be a potentially good to great show overall, especially with the main event. I'm really looking forward to the main event between MJF and Kenny Omega. I think FTR versus Christian and Cage could be a very good match, a match to look out for potentially. Jon Moxley versus Will Ospreay is definitely a match to look out for. I remember these two wrestling in a New Japan show a few years back. I think this was before Will Ospreay went to AEW. And I think the Young Bucks versus Takeshita and Okada is definitely a match to be slept on as well. I really hope that Thekla and Jamie Hayter get the time and also get put onto the card in a respectful way where they can showcase and kind of get the crowd with them. Because I do think the last few pay-per-views, their placement on pay-per-views hasn't really been to their advantage where they can have the crowd to get invested to them from the get-go. It's almost like they had to work for the crowd to get there. But this is, like I said, this will potentially be a long show. But I do think you'll have the potential to be, once again, another good to great show, which all these AEW shows have been doing so far. And they've been on a bit of a run, especially with the pay-per-views and how they've been moving as well. And I feel like this is all leading towards the road to All In, which will be at Wembley. But those are my thoughts on AEW Dynasty. Let me know what you think, which match excites you, what match you're looking forward to. Comment below, like, comment, subscribe. Do let us know what you think. I've been Reardon from Main Event Mic'd, and we will catch you guys later. Take care.